4 in the morning, July 6, 2022. A hilltop in Elberton County, Georgia, cow pasture, red clay, and 6 slabs of granite standing in the dark where they have stood for 42 years. There is a security camera on a pole watching them. At 4:03 it records a flash, and one of the 4 upright stones, roughly 20 tons of granite, comes apart. Minutes later, the same camera watches a silver sedan pull out of the gravel lot and drive away. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation released the footage and asked the public for help. The car has never been identified, neither has the driver, and by that evening the county brings in heavy equipment and takes the rest of it down. In a single day, America's strangest monument and the crime scene underneath it both stop existing. These were the Georgia Guidestones. 10 instructions for humanity, cut in 8 languages, paid for by a man nobody could name, and destroyed before dawn by somebody nobody has caught. Rewind. June 1979. Elberton, Georgia, a small town in the northeast corner of the state that calls itself the granite capital of the world. Its quarries have been cutting headstones for a century. A well-dressed, gray-haired stranger walks into the Elberton Granite Finishing Company and asks for the president, Joe Fenley. He wants to commission a monument, not a headstone, a monument.
You get walk-ins every week. Somebody wants a bench, an angel, a stone for their mother. This man wanted 6 slabs, nearly 20 feet tall, lettered in 8 languages, and he wanted them still readable a few thousand years from now.
He gives a name, R. The Christian, and says straight away that it is not his name. He says he speaks for a small group of Americans who intend to stay anonymous permanently. Fenley assumes he is a crank, so he quotes a praise several times what the job is worth and reels off equipment his shop does not own, waiting for the man to walk out. The man does not walk out. He asks who in town he can trust with the money. That turns out to be Wyatt Martin, president of the Granite City Bank. Christian tells Martin his real name on one condition. Martin never repeats it and destroys the file when the job is finished. The payments arrive wired in from banks scattered across the country, so no single trail leads anywhere. Martin said he burned the paperwork. He kept that name for the rest of his life and never gave it up. What the stranger ordered was, physically, ridiculous. 6 pieces of pyramid blue granite pulled from an Elberton County quarry, 4 uprights set around a center column like a paddle wheel, with a capstone laid across the top. The explanatory tablet later set in the ground listed the specifications. 19 feet, 3 inches tall. 951 cubic feet of stone. Total weight, 237,746 pounds. On the 4 uprights, the same 10 guides repeated in 8 modern languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. 2 faces per stone. 8 chances that somebody, someday, could still read it. But he did not want a billboard. He wanted an instrument. Fenley brought in an astronomer from the University of Georgia to work out the geometry.
3 devices, all of them cut into rock. A 7/8 inch hole bored through the center column, angled so the North Star sits in it permanently. A slot through that same column that frames the sun at the solstices and the equinoxes. And an aperture in the capstone that drops a single beam of sunlight onto the column at noon, walking along it day by day, all year. A calendar with no moving parts.
The 4 outer stones were set to mark the limits of the moon's 18.6-year cycle. Then a sandblaster named Charlie Clamp cut roughly 4,000 characters into the faces. He later said that over the hundreds of hours it took, he kept hearing strange music. March 22, 1980. A crowd gathers in the pasture. A congressman speaks. The cover comes off. Nobody standing in that field knows who paid for it. 46 years later, that is still true. And then people read guide number 1. Quote, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. The other 9 are calmer and stranger for it. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And the 10th, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. That last line is carved twice. On the capstone, in Babylonian cuneiform, classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs, one sentence, let these be guidestones to an age of reason. And the tablet in the ground promised a time capsule 6 feet below it, with the date it was buried and the date to open it, both left blank. That is the entire document. 10 sentences on a rock. No author, no argument, no footnotes, and nobody to ask. So people filled the silence. Claim 1, and by far the loudest, that the stones were a New World Order manifesto, a public announcement that a hidden elite intends to reduce humanity to 500 million. Supporters point to Guide 1, the anonymity and money wired in so it could not be traced. Skeptics answer that there's no mechanism on the stone, no timetable, no signature, and that people who genuinely run the world do not usually publish the plan on a 20-foot billboard in a Georgia cow pasture. Claim 2, that R. C stands for Rosicrucian, for Christian Rosencreuz, the legendary founder of a secret order. The evidence is the initials. That is genuinely all of it. Christian himself said he chose the name because of his Christian faith. Claim 3 deserves a serious hearing. That Guide 2, improving fitness and diversity, is eugenics language. It did not come from nowhere. Population control was mainstream in the 1970s, from the population bomb to the Club of Rome. But the stone never explains what it means. That ambiguity is not a failure of reading. It is a poverty of the object. Now the plain reading, which gets a fraction of the clicks. 1979, 3 Mile Island had partially melted down that March. The bulletin of the atomic scientists would soon move its doomsday clock to 7 minutes to midnight. Building for the end of the world was a normal hobby.
Read the stones as what their author said they were, a message for survivors. Not instructions to kill 4 billion people, a note for whoever is still standing after somebody else already has. Under that reading, maintain humanity under 500 million is a ceiling for rebuilding, not a target for culling. It is a survivalist's letter to the future, carved in the hardest thing money can buy.
And that is roughly what the author himself said. In 1986, he self-published a book under the same pseudonym, Common Sense Renewed, a deliberate nod to Thomas Paine, and mailed copies to political leaders. It is an earnest, rambling, thoroughly unhidden piece of political philosophy by a man who thought civilization might not make it. So who was he? Everything anyone has is circumstantial. A Midwestern accent, some letters, a set of wire transfers, and one banker's memory. The best-known candidate comes from a 2015 documentary which argued the man was Dr. Herbert Hindley Curson, a physician from Fort Dodge, Iowa, who had died years earlier, pointing to an Iowa paper trail and to Curson's own politics. Others have floated Ted Turner, on no evidence at all, mostly because he is from Georgia and once talked about population. Martin never confirmed a name, and confirmation is the only thing that would have counted. Meanwhile, the hilltop became a destination. Tour buses, weddings, prayer circles, protesters, television crews. And in 2008, somebody coated the stones in polyurethane paint, including the words "Death to the New World Order." In 2014, something stranger. A small engraved granite cube turned up wedged into a notch in the corner of the English slab, marked with a scatter of letters and numbers that some read as a date that August. Weeks later it was pried out and smashed on the ground. Nobody knows who put it there or what it was for. By 2022 the stones had become a political target. That May, a candidate in Georgia's Republican primary for governor campaigned on demolishing them, calling them satanic. She finished third. Investigators have never named a suspect in what happened next, and no link has ever been established between the bombing and any campaign. July 6, 2022, 4:03 in the morning. An explosive device destroys one of the 4 upright stones and damages the capstone. The GBI opens a case, publishes the camera footage, and waits.
Then the county pulled the rest of it down the same day for safety. Understand what that costs you. A debris field is evidence, tool marks, residue, fragments of a device, anything the person left behind. Once it is in the back of a truck, it is not a scene anymore. It is rubble.
So here is the honest scoreboard. We know who cut the stones, what they said, when they fell, and roughly how. We do not know who commissioned them, whether a time capsule was ever buried, who placed the cube, or who set the charge. Nobody has been charged with anything. There is a hard little irony sitting on that hill. A man spent a fortune asking the future to be reasonable, in 8 languages, in stone chosen to outlast everything. He got 42 years of argument and a bomb at 4 in the morning, and the one person who could have told us his name kept his promise instead. Missed our last one. 5 friends drove home from a basketball game in 1978 and ended up 70 miles the wrong way, up a snowbound mountain road. 4 found dead in the forest, 1 never found at all. The Yuba County 5. Cards on screen. Next time is up to you. That was the last stone in this batch. 38 mysteries in 1 vault. A lost plane, a lost colony, a lost skeleton, a code nobody has cracked, and now a hilltop in Georgia with nothing on it. The full playlist is on screen. Leave room for nature. Leave room for doubt. And if you want the rest of the vault, subscribe.